everyone, I'm Anna,
And I'm Jeff.
and you're listening to We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast where we do exactly what the title says. On today's episode, we're judging the pilot of one of Jeff's favorite shows.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our pod.
Hi, welcome everyone.
Well, today we're going to be judging the pilot of one of my favorite shows, The Wonder Years. Anna's going to give us some information about the pilot, so Anna, why don't you go ahead and do that?
All right, The Wonder Years. The Wonder Years, the pilot premiered on January 31st, 1988 on ABC. The series ran from 1988 to 1993 for 6 seasons with a total of 115 episodes. It was created by a married couple Neil Marlins and Carol Black, who also created Growing Pains and Ellen. They also wrote the pilot. They also co-wrote the pilot. It was directed by Steve Miner, who was really mostly known for directing horror films, which maybe this is why you love this show.
Unrelated, just a happy coincidence.
Yes, you love horror movies. And so he directed, films like Friday the 13th Part 2.
Which is my favorite Friday the 13th. That's the best one.
Halloween 20 Years Later and Lake Placid. I love all of those too.
Halloween H2O is a good one.
And so the series, the basic premise is the series centers around Kevin Arnold as he recalls his teen years in the late 60s and early 70s growing up in the suburbs. The concept for the show was actually inspired by A Christmas Story, particularly the coming of age theme, kind of childhood nostalgia, and adult narration. The Wonder Years was originally written as a film. Neil Marlins and Carol basically wanted to make a Christmas story, but for the younger baby boomers, so they set it in the late 60s when they came of age, but realizing the potential that this had, they began developing it for TV instead of film. So that is kind of the basic pilot info, and the premise, kind of the, what the Wonder Years was about.
Right.
All right. So I have some questions for you, Jeff.
Okay.
All right. So why do you think it was actually called The Wonder Years?
I always kind of took it as that's just kind of the show kind of focuses on Kevin from ages about like 12 to 17, and I really feel like those are the years of your life where, I mean, you could call them the Wonder Years in a way that, like, you haven't really experienced the world yet. Everything is new. Everything you're experiencing is new. And so everything is kind of a wonder in some way. So in a lot of ways, that's the Wonder Years. I mean, there could be some because it was set in the late 60s and early 70s, but I wouldn't necessarily think it that specifically because of the era. I think it's because of just the time in your life where those are like the Wonder Years.
Full of wonder.
Right.
You're full of wonder.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, why did you pick this show as one of your favorite comfort shows to do this month?
Well, it was kind of my first comfort show, so I did watch it when it originally aired, but it was very casual because I was really young. But when it was added to Nick at Night, I believe I was in 8th grade. My stepbrother Tyler, who we're the same age, he was like, "Oh, this is my favorite show. I can't wait to watch it." And I mean, I knew what it was. Like, I knew Kevin and Winnie and all the characters and who they were, but I wasn't like super into it. But he was just like, "Oh no, this is like my favorite show. We gotta watch it." So I'm like, "Okay." We watched the pilot, and I was hooked. Like, I was 13 or 14 at the time, so it was very relatable in the sense that, like, I understood the feelings of being that age because I was that age. I picked it because it's always a show that it's just such a good show. Like, it just makes you feel nostalgic. It makes you feel good. And I've just always loved, I mean, like, you'll know, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to watch one episode of The Wonder Years. And it never turns into one episode. I do like what you do with Gilmore Girls. I just pick and choose my episodes that I want to watch. Because it's 22 minutes. It's super easy to watch.
All right. So what specifically do you remember about your junior high years?
Goodness.
Anything super exciting happened to you in that time?
Well, I mean, no, not really. I do remember my first year of middle school. So I went to a kindergarten through 12th grade school, and it was divided into two. It was divided into elementary and high school, and high school was 7th through 12th grade. So 7th grade, just like Kevin, was the beginning of junior high. That was technically I was in high school, like it was 7th through 12th grade. So I was in like gym. I'm like 12 years old, and I'm taking gym with like 17 and 18-year-olds. Like it was a lot. I remember, yeah, I just remember feeling so much younger than I actually was because I was going to school with 17 and 18-year-olds. Like I remember my first year being very stressful, but also, when you're that age, you're also a little dramatic. So maybe I was just also being dramatic. But yeah, I don't have any like specific memories of like this incredible, amazing thing happened to me when I was in middle school. Like I never had like a moment where I was like, that I remember, but it was definitely the wonder years for me too. It was definitely like it was tough. Like a lot of people, middle school was rough. It was a rough era for me, like it was for a lot of people. Um, but yeah, I don't have any like specific
Did you
memories.
have like a first love or a first crush in middle school, junior high?
Yes. Yes. So I did have a crush on I did have a crush on a girl. I remember like all through 7th grade, like I had a crush on this girl, and she sat behind me in one of my classes, I think, and I never it's very typical me. I never talked to her. I never told her I had a crush on her. We became like friends, like, but no, I never.
Friend
I
zoned
was
all the way
very, I
then.
was, until I got into theater and started coming out of my shell, I was very, very shy. I was very, very shy. So if I liked a girl, they had to like me, and they had to like say I like you in order for me to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I like you too, because I was a very shy boy.
Aw. So I actually remember watching this show
Mm-hmm.
too back when it aired. I was in college at the
Right.
time, but I think I loved it because I was maybe a little bit younger than Kevin and Winnie.
Right.
But it just brought back so much nostalgia for
Mm-hmm.
me with, growing up in the 70s and just kind of seeing their cars
The
and their clothes and the
clothes, the music,
furniture
yeah.
and all the music
Right.
and all of that. So I definitely love the Wonder Years too.
Do you remember your first love, your first junior high? Did you have a junior high love?
I'll be honest, no, I don't. I really am serious. I know,
I'm giving her
like,
a face right now.
he,
Sorry, you
he
can't see
is,
me. You
he
can't
is,
see me do it. I'm
he
giving her
doesn't
a
believe it,
face.
but I don't really remember like liking boys yet
Right.
in junior high. I
Well,
don't know.
I
I mean,
was
I think I was kind of boy crazy. Like I liked boys, but
right.
I wasn't gonna do anything about
That's
it. Like
I was the same with girl. I was very girl crazy, but I was never gonna do anything unless like the girl, like I said, unless the girl was like, I like you. I'd be like, oh yes, I like you too. I can talk to you now.
and I think it like my junior high that I went to in New Orleans. I think there were like some dances and things,
Right.
but like I didn't really go to dances until like I don't think I was
Right.
into high school.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
we had dances. Yeah.
yeah, I know that my school did, but no one ever asked me to that.
Aww.
I know. But probably I have like a really funny junior high story. So I
Mhm.
was in gifted. We've talked
Uh-huh.
about that. And um our teachers were super creative and always let us do kind of fun things. And I think for Louisiana history class, we took a weekend field trip to Natchitoches to go
Okay.
see, which is the oldest city in the state of
Right.
Louisiana. And on the way back on the trip, we're on the bus. We had, rented, like the school had rented a bus for us, or we paid for it. And we pull into the parking lot at Chuck E. Cheese, and we all think we're going to play video games and have pizza to end
Uh-huh.
our trip. And we come to find out that a bunch of the guys on the trip brought beer, and the teacher was just like, "Whose beer is this?" And I just remember being really shocked, like,
Beer.
boys brought beer on the trip. So if anyone was with me at car, on the Natchitoches trip, give us a shout out if you remember that happening. But that was probably one of my favorite things. And again, I loved junior high. I had really creative teachers. I think I've talked about our pen pals. We had like a Mardi Gras court. We went on scavenger hunts, and they were really, I loved junior high for that. I think I remember my teachers a lot more than like crushes and stuff like that.
Yes, I had a better time in high school.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I had a much better time in high school.
High school was definitely way more fun because you kind of had a little bit more independence once you had friends that drove or you drove and things like that. So, besides the pilot, what is one of your favorite episodes of this series?
Okay, so I thought maybe you were going to ask me that, so I wrote some down because I'm really bad at remembering episode names.
Okay.
So I won't get into I might go into too much detail, so you're just going to have to flag me and let me know.
All right. I mean,
if I go
you
into
just
too much
name a couple.
Okay, so there's one episode that I watch almost every time I do a rewatch, and it's called Square Dance.
Oh.
And it's an episode where Kevin is in gym, and they're like with the girls, and they're like partnering up, and he gets stuck with like the weird girl. I think her name was Martha. Martha. And it's kind of all about like the beginning of the episode. They talk. Adult Kevin talks about the people in your life that like you wish you could forget but you can't. And it's just this idea of like Kevin kind of having to choose between being a decent human being or like impressing his friends, because all the boys like make fun of this girl, and he like gets to know her and realize like, oh, she's really cool, she's really interesting, she's just unique, that's it. And the boys are like making fun of her, and it's like Kevin had the opportunity to stand up for her and he didn't. And it's a very heartbreaking episode, just because Kevin, and I always like this about the Wonder Years, Kevin wasn't always the good guy. And Kevin messed up a lot.
We aren't. I think that's something also that's really kind of true as kids, is like we make mistakes, and we're not always great kids.
But then like at the end of the episode, he's like, I never forgot about Martha, attorney, happily married, mother of 5. And so I'm just like, she was okay.
Did you ever do square dancing?
Yes, I did. So I actually in elementary school, I did get paired up with the quote unquote weird girl, but I was a lot different than Kevin. I'm a sweet boy. So I was always really nice to her, and I would talk to her on the playground, but I was always really nice. But yeah, I actually really liked square dancing because it was silly, but just silly enough to, it was fun.
Oh my gosh.
Did you? I know, I think we've talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was second grade, and
Me too.
I remember my partner, his name is Samuel. Shout out to Samuel if you are listening. He's an artist in Chicago. We are still friends.
Cool.
Because I'm friends with everyone.
Yes, you are. I love it.
And I loved it because, as you know, my mom was a seamstress. I mean, she sewed. And I had, like, the cutest little red and white gingham ruffly skirt that she made it all bouncy. And, it was just so fun. I loved it. I loved having a partner, and we were dancing, and we learned it, and we did it. I think, like for all of our parents. I think it was
really?
It was like an event at the school.
That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, they were like really serious about us learning how to square dance. I mean, shout out to all the people at Alice Hart. Didn't we do this for our parents? I think we did it like at a night, like a PTO meeting or something.
Yeah, like I remember we would do stuff like that in like first and second grade. Like we would do random performances for our parents that like were just so random. So another episode that I love, it's called Odd Man Out, and for me it was so relatable in the sense, so I've always been a homebody. I've always been someone that has always really just liked being at home, and the beginning of the episode, or the first half of the episode, is kind of all about like the downfall of like a weekend long sleepover. So Paul comes over and stays the weekend at Kevin's, and it's like Friday night. they're so excited, they're camping out in the backyard, they're laughing, and then by Sunday morning they are so tired of each other. Kevin just wants Paul to go home, and I just like I just always remember that because I would do these like weekend long sleepovers, and by Sunday I was just like, can you just go home? Like, can you just go home? Like,
Really?
I don't know why I was like this.
I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever had a weekend long sleepover.
Yeah.
Ever.
I had,
I honestly cannot.
I had a few friends that like they were the friends that like my parents. I had been friends with for a long time, so it was like it wasn't like they were just random friends of mine. It was for special people that we would do the weekend long. But yeah, by Sunday I was.
Was this to give like the parents a break or something?
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, so it's like it's really the first time that like Paul and Kevin like have a fight, and they introduce like other characters that go to school that they start hanging out with. I just always love that episode just because of the first half where it's like I just love that. I just love thinking about it's like God, it's like the downfall of a sleepover. It's like how you get kind of sometimes you're like, oh yeah, no, we're not compatible as like sleepover friends.
But then you also do need a break from your friend.
Right.
You're with them like all week at school.
And I think that also was kind of the thing where like even though they became friends, they made up by the end of the episode. It was still like these other people that they were hanging out with became integrated into their friend group in the show, so it ended up serving a purpose.
Gotcha.
But my number one, this will be the last one, my number one favorite episode of the Wonder Years, probably one of my favorite episodes of any show of all time, it is The Accident.
Oh.
That is one, I mean, like that is an episode that I can just watch the ending. I can go on YouTube and watch the ending at any moment in time.
And we'll both be crying.
It's such a special episode. I won't get too far into it. You're gonna have to go and find the Wonder Years on Hulu and go watch it. But yeah, it is such a beautiful episode. In the very end, it's like it's a moment that like I think about. If I think about it for too long, I will just start crying. Like even if I just think about it, I'm like, it's such a good moment.
Oh, and it's so cute. It's
very
so
sweet.
good.
It's such a sweet episode.
Very sweet. It's so good. All right. So, and actually in that episode, music plays a big part. I mean, of the whole series.
Yep.
I that to me was just another one of the things that I loved about it is the music.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite songs that you remember from the show that were included?
All right. So I just talked about The Accident, and at the end of the episode, We've Got Tonight by Bob Seger plays, and one of the greatest songs of all time, one of the prettiest songs of all time, probably because of this episode, one of my favorite songs of all time. But yeah, it's just that moment. It was the perfect song for that scene. Once again, if you've never seen this episode, go on Hulu and watch it. Even if you've never watched The Wonder Years before, just go and watch it. You'll love it. Also, there was an episode, I don't remember the name of it, but it was a school dance episode, and it was the one with the little sister from Adventures in Babysitting was in it, and her and Kevin were lab partners that were friends and going to the dance together. And that was the first time I heard the original version of Crimson and Clover.
Oh, okay.
And the original version of Unchained Melody. Those were kind of like I'm like, oh, those were sung originally by other people. I was like,
you knew
14.
The Joan Jett version.
Right, always one of my favorites. And then of course, there's an episode where Kevin kind of reconnects with his sister Karen, who's a hippie, and there's a song called Catch the Wind by Donovan. It's like one of my favorite songs still to this day. It pops up on my playlist sometimes, and I just crank it up.
All right, so I'm going to give a few fun facts
Okay.
before you get into kind of giving us a pilot summary.
All right.
So in 2009, TV Guide released a list of top 100 greatest episodes, and the pilot for The Wonder Years was ranked as number 39. That's pretty impressive.
And I think it's well deserved.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean that's like really strong.
Out of all the episodes, they're not talking about pilots. They're talking about greatest episodes.
Yeah. And The Wonder Years actually set itself apart from other family sitcoms at the time because they filmed without a laugh track, and it was with a single camera setup.
I didn't think about that at this point in time, every family show, it was like Growing Pains, Family Matters, like all of those like sitcom style. I didn't really think about that.
Although the specific setting of the series is never really revealed, it was based on the suburbs of Long Island and Maryland, where the co-creators grew up. Um, Although the show producers later confirmed that it was ultimately set in the suburbs of Los Angeles, such clues like car license plates
Right.
and things
Yeah.
like that. And just a couple of other little fun facts. The adult Kevin, also known as the narrator, was originally voiced by character actor Ari Gross, and his narration was used in the original airing of the pilot. And Daniel Stern took over the role for the second episode and for the rest of the series. Um, Ari's original narration was later removed and replaced by Daniel Stern for all later reruns.
I can't
So,
imagine another voice. That's so weird.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
so weird when you hear Daniel
hmm
Stern and you're just, that voice.
Right.
And he has like that
He
very
has a
distinct.
very, especially if you're a fan of, a lot of comedies in the late 80s and 90s, like
Home Alone,
yeah,
Wet Bandits.
Rookie of the Year. He's
Yeah.
so funny.
Oh, yeah. And then Karen had a few boyfriends, a sister.
Right. Kevin's
Uh,
older sister.
And had a few boyfriends over the course of the series, but two worth mentioning. The first is John Corbett, who played Aiden on Sex and the City, which is one of my favorite shows.
And a show that we've already judged.
Talked about. And then also David Schwimmer would go on to play her husband on the show, and he was on Friends,
Right.
which is one of our top shows
So
that
we've done,
talked about.
yeah. So we've done two shows that Karen's boyfriends have appeared in. That would kind of go on to be the thing that made them like that they're known for.
Yeah.
Which is even more interesting.
All right. So, you want to give a recap of the pilot?
Sure, let's do this.
Let's do it.
Let's do this. All right. So adult Kevin Arnold, narrated by Daniel Stern, who he's the other half of the Wet Bandits. Sorry.
Wet Bandits.
Sticky Bandits in the second one.
Yes.
He looks back on the summer of 1968. Young Kevin, who's played by, of course, by Fred Savage. He's grown up in the suburbs, and he has a very, I would say he has a pretty typical suburban upbringing. He's usually playing outside with his friends, his best friend Paul, who's played by Josh Saviano, I believe that's how you say it, and then and also with his very obnoxious older brother Wayne, played by, of course, Jason Hervey, who I think is, other than Kevin and Winnie, is probably the most well-known character from the show. Just his relationship with Kevin, I just feel like people always remember it.
Yeah.
He loves to torment Kevin, but if things get too out of line, then Brian Cooper, the cool older guy that lives down the street, Winnie's older brother, usually will kind of stick up for him. And so Brian's little sister is Winnie Cooper, who used to be friends, played by Danica McKellar, who used to be friends with Kevin, but when you get a little older and boys, girls, they do their own thing, and they just kind of stopped hanging out. And also at the end of sometime during the summer, Brian, Winnie's older brother, was drafted to the Vietnam War. So this is 1968. Vietnam's going on. And Kevin, Paul, and Winnie are all about to start their first day of junior high, which Kevin is very nervous about. He doesn't get a lot of attention or support at home. His mom, Norma, is usually, it's at least implied usually, that she's like the buffer between Karen, Kevin's older sister, and the dad, Jack, who they're always bickering because she's like this liberal hippie and he's this really conservative, kind of hard-ass type of guy.
Right.
So he goes to his first day. He's at the bus stop. It's his first day. They see this pretty girl walking down, and they're just like, oh my God, who's that? It's Winnie. She has kind of dropped her, I guess you would call it more of like a tomboy kind of look, or just like a normal girl kind of. I mean, she was wearing like jeans, plaid.
I think she had her hair in like the pigtail
Right.
braids. I think she was very like what her mom probably
Right.
wanted her to look like at the time. I
But
mean,
now she has a very, for 1968, a very like modern, hip. She's got the go-go boots. She's got
a
the
very twiggy look.
right.
Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's a good comparison. So yeah, the Kevin's first day of junior high ends up being just as stressful as he thought it was going to be. He has this older classman who, I mean, like, I get it, but like he looks like he's 29, and he basically like takes over Kevin's locker. He also kind of has to deal with being Wayne's little brother, like your brother's reputation kind of precedes you, I guess, if that's the way
Oh
you want to
yeah,
put it.
they all know your brother.
Yeah, so
So
when I was in middle school, I was very lucky that my older sister was very well liked by teachers. So anytime I had one of my sister's teachers, they always ended up liking me. So thank you, Sarah. Thanks for
thank you,
that.
Sarah.
Did you ever have that issue?
Not so much with my brother because he was a lot older than I
Right.
was, and then I actually went to like
I know you went to a different high school, but
yeah, different high
yeah.
school. But with Rebecca, we had a couple of teachers that we crossed paths, and in fact, a couple of teachers would call me Rebecca.
Oh, okay.
Not
That's
that
funny.
we look alike, although a lot of people think we look and sound alike. Whatever. Shout out to Rebecca. But there were
Oh,
teachers that always called me Rebecca. And it was just a
okay.
couple, but
Right.
she's 6 years older than I am.
Y'all
So
also sound similar. Y'all don't
yeah,
sound exactly alike, but y'all
yeah,
sound very similar.
yeah.
So I can understand. All right, so yeah, Kevin's having a stressful day, and he's at lunch. Now he's at lunch. Kevin and Paul are kind of sitting in the cafeteria at an empty table. Winnie comes and sits with them, and in the narration, it sounds like Kevin's like, okay, like that we're forming a friend group, like maybe we can have some more friends and we could become like the cool kids of 7th grade. And he finally like has some comfort with his friends, getting a little help from his friends. And but of course Wayne comes and ruins it by being Wayne and making jokes about Winnie and calling Winnie his girlfriend and saying that he likes her. So Kevin, who's just had enough, he's had enough of this day. He's had enough of middle school. So he, kind of yells back at Wayne, saying that like she's not my girlfriend and I don't even like her, which was very not nice. So he grabs an apple and leaves the cafeteria. Well, one of the teachers, or maybe it was the principal, stops him and is like, "Hey, you can't bring food outside the cafeteria," which is such a dumb school rule. That's
And
such
it
a
was a rule
Right,
though.
I
It
remember.
was.
Like
Oh my gosh.
I remember, and that was what was so funny. I was like, I remember that. Like we like could not leave the cafeteria like with any cafeteria food. So he's like, if you take one step further, if you keep moving, you're gonna get detention. So he doesn't put his body back into the cafeteria. He decides to throw the apple back into the cafeteria, which I gotta say was kind of a badass move. Very stupid, but kind of a badass move. So he gets in trouble. They call his parents. At first, he just kind of it's really kind of funny. At first, during majority of the scene where they're in the principal's office, you just see Norma, the mom, the principal, and Kevin, the whole like for pretty much the whole scene. And so you're just thinking that's it, and then you kind of hear the dad's voice off camera, and you cut back, and he's just been sitting in the corner of the office, just stewing, just
Just
like
so mad.
oh
Yeah.
so mad. And Kevin talks about they're in the back seat. He's in the back seat of the car. They're driving home. Kevin's talking about like his dad's never like laid a hand on him before. This is going to be the first time, and he's just bracing himself for a whooping. So they get home. They're walking up to the house. Karen and Wayne, I know,
Oh yeah.
Karen and Wayne kind of meet them at the door. They look very upset. Even Wayne, who's usually being Wayne, he looks very sad and very solemn. Find out that Brian, Winnie's older brother, had been killed in Vietnam.
That scene.
Yeah, no, well, there's
I
the
totally
moment.
remember it.
There's the moment where like the dad, where Jack kind of like has his like it looks like he really sternly on Kevin, and then once he learns that, he kind of like gently puts his hand on his shoulder, and it's like it's just such a moment. I love moments that don't need words. Like I love the moments that are just like it's fine, like it's okay,
Like throwing an apple is the least of our
right,
concerns.
like this is nothing compared to what Winnie and her parents are going through right
Right.
now. So Kevin decides to take a walk around his neighborhood. He's got his infamous green Jets, I believe, New York Jets jacket that he was always wearing in the beginning of the show. And he starts walking through Harper's Woods, which is where him and Winnie used to play when they were kids. I don't know if he was like expecting to find her or thought she was going to be there, but he sees Winnie sitting on a log. It's cold. She doesn't have a jacket on. He goes in.
So cute.
He goes and sits next to her, and he was just like, "I'm really sorry what I said," and he says he's sorry and he apologizes for what he said in the cafeteria, but he's saying more than that. Like he knows the
Oh,
sorry
yeah.
is more than just what I said. It's just kind of sorry for everything. It's so cute. He gives her his jacket, and then puts his arm around her, and they kiss. It's so cute. And then when a man loves a
Smooches.
woman starts playing.
No, like that's like a pretty like
adult
song
I know.
for this little cute
It's still
moment.
very cute, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of, it's just, but, and then he comforts her, and it's so sweet. Now we know why it was voted number 39.
Yeah.
Because our eyes are trying not to water up as we're talking about it right now.
I know.
It's such a great.
It was like I really remember the scene of them coming home, and you were like, he is gonna get his butt whooped, and you kind of have forgotten about Brian going off to Vietnam, because it was kind of just
it was at the very, very beginning of the episode.
beginning, and he's not even in the episode other than that, and then all of a sudden it's like he was killed in Vietnam, and you were just like, whoa.
And that's, I mean, that's what it was like.
Yeah. All right, so I think we know the answer.
We're tearing up. We've watched it for the millionth time the other night, and I still found myself like just trying not to like. As any of you who know me, or anyone who's going to be listening to us regularly, I am not afraid to show my emotions because I can't hide them. So they just happen.
Me too. I'm a crier.
Oh, same. I
will cry.
I know we both know that about each other, but yeah, I just can't. I will not stop myself, because also it feels good to cry.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Very
and it was
therapeutic.
definitely a moment.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, absolutely.
I mean, I would probably have to say one of my favorite pilots of all time. Definitely one of my favorite pilots of all time.
Yeah. So I think we know the answer. Does it stand true today?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would watch it.
It doesn't matter what time it was set in. It does not matter. It is just one of those things where when you are 12, like I said, 12 to 17, that whole kind of era of your life where you're not a kid, where they keep saying you're not a kid anymore, but they're not treating you like an adult. So you're always in this weird mentality of just like, I'm never being taken seriously. And it's just a really weird time of your life.
Yeah.
And, I think anybody can relate to being that age and how insanely awkward it is.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember the one thing that I was really nervous about, particularly in junior high, because like I've mentioned before, I went to school from like kindergarten, like on elementary school and junior high with people I knew.
Right.
Because we went to like our local district public schools. But I remember in junior high, like you had to change classrooms and stuff. Like, and
did you have lockers and you were all excited about lockers?
I think we did have lockers. I mean, we did, because I know that they were in the hallways and stuff. I don't remember a lot. I just remember having to navigate like moving classrooms, because we did it a little bit in like 5th, 6th grade. With gifted, but not as much going to like math class and science, and then social studies, and then English, language arts, and then gym. I mean, we didn't have gym in 1st through 6th grade. That was a whole new like kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, junior high is just tough. I think it's a very hard age.
And it really is an era of your life that you wish you could forget, but you can't. There are certain things that, I mean, like, there are just certain things about middle school. I'm not going to get into them because they're not fun stories, but like they're just things that you don't forget.
Yeah.
They're your formative years.
Exactly. The wonder years.
Oh my God, that's it.
All right. Well,
yeah, I think that about wraps it up.
Wraps up this episode of We Judge a Show by Its Pilot. Thanks for tuning in, and if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you will be notified every time we publish a new episode.
You can also follow us on Instagram at We Judge Pilot Pod. Leave us a comment, maybe suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. Do you have any? You're my emoji. You're my emoji person. I was thinking
like the peace symbol.
Yes.
A flower symbol for like the 60s. Also maybe like the music emojis.
Yes.
The musical notes, because I think it was just like a big part. Or like the school kids, or like a calendar,
Yeah.
you know, like for school year or
All right.
something like that. I mean, I don't know. Did you have an emoji?
I actually, because there's two different peace emojis. There's like the two fingers, and then there's the peace sign.
Yeah.
I would go with the peace sign just because it's really just always makes me think of the 60s.
Yes.
All right, we're gonna head out, but we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening. Bye.